Hello, welcome back to the channel. Today you find me in a graveyard in St Pancras. I know what you want to ask. Why? That's a good question. I'll tell you right after this. I've come here today because I'm tracing the history of a British icon, something known around the world. And you'll see what that is in a minute, but first I want to show you this. This is the mausoleum, if you want to call it that, of John Soames. Now he doesn't play any part in this, but his mausoleum does. And our interest in the mausoleum today is that roof. Does it remind you of anything? So, the icon we're in search of. Well, I've had to come to Piccadilly, here in the heart of the West End of London, here to Burlington House in fact, because inside this gateway to my right is the reason we're here. Let's go and have a look. And here it is, ladies and gentlemen, what most of you know as the British phone box. This is the prototype of what is known as the K2 kiosk, and it was designed by Giles Gilbert Scott in 1924. But where was the K1? Good question. In 1912, all of the then independent phone companies came under the control of the General Post Office, or GPO. In an attempt to harmonise the various different brands, it was decided to introduce the Mark 234, or K1, in 1921. K in this instance stands for kiosk. This was improved in 1927, but was already outdated, so a competition was organised in 1924. The competition was overseen by the Royal Fine Arts Commission, who asked the Royal Institute of British Architects, or RIBA, to pick 3 entrants to tender further designs. They chose Robert Lorimer, Sir John Burnett and Giles Gilbert Scott. 5 models were displayed behind the National Gallery, and from these Giles Gilbert Scott's winning design was chosen. This is the original prototype designed by Scott and displayed at that 1924 National Gallery exhibition. This original prototype is made of steel. Notice the crown above the door. This is made by drilling holes in the shape of a crown and provided ventilation. The word telephone cut out was replaced by printed glass which lit up at night. Do you remember I took you to see the John Soames Museum? Look at the roof of that telephone kiosk. Does it remind you of anything? That's right. The design of the roof of this was said to be taken from that of the mausoleum we visited earlier. So this is a K2 prototype, the very first one, the granddaddy of them all. If we walk across the road, behind that door over there is a production K2. Let's go and have a look. The K2 was Britain's first red phone box. It was made from cast iron with a wooden door. Sadly, these boxes proved expensive to produce and generally were only seen in and around London. Just like a certain TV advert, this is a telephone box, but this is no ordinary telephone box. This is the prototype of the K2 telephone box. Let's explore the rest of Burlington House. Burlington House started in 1664 and was originally owned by the Earls of Burlington. In 1854 it was sold to the British government for the princely sum of £140,000. The original plan was to demolish the house in order to build the University of London. However, strong opposition put pay to these plans. Luckily, the Royal Academy of Arts took over the main block in 1867 on a 999-year lease at a sum of £1 per year. The courtyard is also home to learned societies such as the Royal Astronomical Society, the Royal Society for Chemistry and the Geological Society of London, amongst others. So as we've seen, the initial prototype was made of wood. I've come here to Broad Street in Covent Garden. In fact, that's the Royal Opera House behind me, because the K2s went on to be produced. Now they were expensive and they were only produced for London. They weren't really used outside of London very much. But here we have a brace of K2s. Now these are production models. These were made of cast iron with wooden doors. Let's go have a look. These have obviously been turned into a installation, a piece of art, but these are actually original K2s. Notice how on the production models here, the air vent, which is the shape of the crown up there, actually has been picked out in gold as well. Sadly they're no longer in use, but I think they make a very nice piece by the side of the pavement there as you walk past. And here by the statue of the ballerina. Behind me, down the road we've just walked down, is the Royal School of Ballet. As I mentioned before, the K2s proved to be quite pricey to produce, and they never really went much outside of London. However, when they produced the K6, they were produced smaller, the idea being they would be put out everywhere. And look, what's poking around the corner over there, can you see that? Let's go and have a look. And here we are, ladies and gentlemen, with a fully working K6 box. Let's go and have a look inside. Obviously in here things have changed. The actual phone unit has changed. And this here that used to have an ashtray on it at one point, and it's where the books would have been in the days when you had books. So you can see the construction of these. I've brought you to this particular K6 because it's been reconstructed to look as it would have done when originally opened. As you can see, there's the old telephone with the AB button, and if I come down here you can see the phone books for London, A through Z. The red phone box is amongst the most iconic landmarks today. 60,000 were installed across Britain between 1926 and 1983. But this icon lives on in many forms and uses which Scott could never have foreseen. From libraries to gardens, from pop-up shops to art installations. One of the great things about the K6 is the number of ways people come up with to reuse them and repurpose them. These have been reused here to give you Wi-Fi. They're not run by the post office or the GPO or anybody like that. They're completely independent, but they have been repurposed, which is a good thing. Good to see them still in use, even if it's nowhere near the use they were intended for. But I guess it's still communication, isn't it? They're still used as a way of communicating with other people. And from these repurposed K6 to the gateway over there, containing the original K2 prototype. Well, thank you for coming along today as we took a skipping stone through the history of the iconic British telephone box. I hope you learnt something. I've learnt a lot making this video. These things are all around us, we take them for granted. Hopefully now if you're looking around you might notice them and just think, that's got a bit of history behind it. But for now, thank you for watching, and from here in Piccadilly Circus, I'm saying bye-bye.